Hi everyone, my name is Emilie Choi. I'm the concertmaster of the Auburn Symphony, and today I'm here to talk a little bit about winter from Vivaldi's Four Seasons. You may have seen our previous video, which was on autumn, and you might remember that Vivaldi was an Italian composer who wrote this music in 1768. So he was very inspired by the weather in Italy at that time. And there were also poems that were written about the seasons that he used as inspiration. So if you remember, a concerto is a piece of music where you have a solo instrument and accompanying orchestra. So I'll be playing some excerpts from the solo violin part, and we can use our imagination and figure out maybe exactly what Vivaldi was inspired by. Now, when I hear the word winter, I think about, of course, the cold weather, the chilly breezes, the rain for us here, and sometimes if we're lucky we get some snow. And I also think about, of course, staying indoors. We'll hear a lot of that in Vivaldi's music. So let's start with the first movement. Remember, there are 3 movements in each concerto. And we'll hear right away some icy shivering, some very brilliant cold gusts of wind. You hear that shivering at the end of each passage. Now, if you ever have snow outside, you might wear boots. And the snow gets stuck in the boots, so when you go inside, you have to stomp and shake the snow off your boots. Or maybe, if it's raining a lot, you might wear rain boots, and you'll get to stomp around in the puddles. Alright, so next I'm going to play something from the second movement, and this is the slower of the 3 movements. It's really quite beautiful. You'll hear in the accompanying violins, so not the solo violin, this pizzicato. Think about what it might remind you of. Maybe falling snowflakes or drops of rain. And while the violins are playing that, the solo violin is playing this really beautiful melody. Maybe you've sat inside by the fire while it was snowing or raining outside. That's what this movement is all about. Now we'll move finally to the third movement, and right at the very beginning, you'll hear it almost sounds like balancing. The poem that Vivaldi was inspired by talks about how difficult it is to stay balanced when you're outside and it's a little slippery from the ice and the snow and the rain. of course, once in a while, you might slip and fall. And finally, the last excerpt I'm going to play mentions the winds in battle. So you hear really fierce winter winds. Well, I hope you enjoyed hearing those little excerpts from Vivaldi's Winter. Don't forget to look up the entire piece of music. If you can find a video, that's awesome. You can see all the different instruments interacting with each other. And that's it for now, so let's go back to Christy so you can continue with your art project.
Hi, I'm Christy Caravaglio from Auburn Symphony Orchestra. I'm going to demonstrate an art project inspired by Vivaldi's Four Seasons. This one is the winter scene. We're going to paint an owl on a branch. The visual inspiration for this piece is Peter Bruegel's Winter Scene. It was painted a super long time ago, and it's a really detailed scene of a town in the winter time. So we're going to paint an owl, but if you don't want to paint an owl, you can paint a snowman, or for little kids, you can maybe trace a mitten. There are lots of things that you can do with the winter time. The supplies you need for this project are things that you either have at home or you can buy easily at your regular store. We'll need some paper. I'm using a black construction paper, but you can really use almost any paper. Even a white printer piece of paper would be fine. We'll need a pencil and some paint. I'm just going to use white and black. Oh, and we need yellow too. Some brushes, a paper towel, a paper plate to put the paint on, and some bits of an evergreen tree that you have in your backyard. This is going to be so fun. If you don't have paintbrushes, you can pick those up real cheaper if you've got a sponge lying around or something like that. You can always improvise. Art, you can always improvise. Okay, so we'll start first with drawing the branch across the page. So you want your paper horizontal. That means the long way. They want the branch kind of toward the bottom, and it's going to be a pretty big branch so the owl has a nice cozy place to sit. And that's about all you need. I mean, just a simple long shape on the bottom there. And actually, before I go any further, I want to show you the one on white paper. So we'll change the colors if you only have white paper. You can do a brown branch and a gray owl and some blue snowflakes or raindrops. So we'll want plenty of white and still just a little bit of black, because a little black goes a long way. Okay, and I'll paint the branch. I used a white pencil, but you can use a regular pencil. I just wanted to use the white so you could see it at home. So I'm going to paint the branch with a gray. And actually, it would be kind of nice if it was a little bit lighter on the top. It doesn't have to be, but it can be a little bit lighter on the top and a little bit darker on the bottom. That's kind of fun. Blend it a little. If you're an older kid, you can blend it a little bit and make it look like the branch is round. When you're drawing anything, you want to break it down to its basic shapes. So for an owl, I think of it as, oh, and we have a cute little owl here. See? It's basically an oval. So what we want to do is make an oval that takes up about this much of the page. And then we want to give it a head. We'll make a round head. And then we're gonna blend the head and the body together like this. There can be some wings on the side like this, if you want. And great big eyes, of course, because that's what makes it look like an owl, and a pointy beak. Maybe some feet, and then you can have a tail behind. I'm gonna skip the tail behind the branch. Okay, so there's our sketch of an owl. So now that we have the sketch, I'm gonna go ahead and paint. So I'm going to pick up a brush, and we're gonna mostly use white. No, we're gonna do the snowflakes first. That's what we're gonna do. This is how you do stuff at home. You just kind of wing it. So I'm gonna take a little, I've got a bigger branch and a smaller branch. I'm gonna break off a piece and scrub them around in the white paint a little bit. Not too gloopy paint. I'm gonna kind of do this to make it a little bit a lighter coating. Kind of blot it off a little bit. And then we're gonna stamp the snowflakes on the paper, which is super fun. And then if you're using white paper, I did this with a light blue. Or you could do white on white, that's fun too. I'm gonna let a little bit accumulate on the branch. Okay, so now we've got it snowing a bit. And if you want, you can use the little end of your brush and get some little teeny tiny snow flurries in there for some variety. Okay. Definitely snowing. Now we'll paint the owl. So I want it's going to be a snowy owl, a white owl, but it's going to have a little bit of gray shading in it. So if you've got some black paint, you can make some gray, or we can keep it white. So I'll just get a little bit of white on my brush and kind of just make these shapes. So I'm going to kind of make it brushy because that'll look like feathers, hopefully. I'll avoid the eyes. And some owls have little horns. You can do some of those or not. I don't think snowy owls have horns. Well, we'll skip those horns. And if you cover up some of the eyes, that's fine. So basically, we want to just get the white filled in the shape of the owl. When I'm painting just on paper, I don't usually like to wash off the brush because it makes the paper too wet. If you need to clean off the brush, I just like to wipe it with a paper towel or a baby wipe or something. Okay, so I've got it pretty filled in, and I've got some brush strokes that are a little bit like feathers. And then we'll take, I think this will work while the paint is still wet. We'll give him some yellow eyes. Big yellow eyes, because that's what's going to make it look like an owl. And then we want just a little bit of black. And we'll do a pointy beak. And if you're smooshing it around a lot, it'll blend with the white and make it gray. That's fine. It'll be darker if you can keep it on top. A little bit of a pupil for the eye. And it looks good with a bit of a brow. Kind of makes it more mysterious looking. And then if you want, you can put in some feather details. And that's it. You have an owl.